Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our Success Thursday, and this week joining us from Germany's Thorben Pantring. Hey Thorben, welcome back.
Hi Vasco, very happy to be here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure to have you. Of course, we were talking yesterday about using experiments in the context of change, and of course those experiments come from reflection, right? Like the idea for experiments comes from reflection. So today we start with what we normally use in Scrum as a, let's call it the pivot, the linchpin of reflection, the retrospective. So share with us, what's your favorite retrospective format and why?
Yes, thank you for the question. I think for me, it's hard to say the format, but to broaden the word format a little bit, the best retrospective for me is the one where the team is physically present. That's like the best. The best retrospectives I had were with the team in a room at the office with some snacks at best. And then for me, the kind of format of the retro itself is secondary. You can basically make it up as you go. Really depends on the situation your team is in. So I'm also a fan of the 5x-why retrospective to really drill down on problems. But for that, you have to first find the problem. And I think teams collaborate in a totally different manner when they sit next to each other and at best spend the whole day at the office co-located.
Absolutely. And when you think about this physical presence versus remote in the context of retrospectives, what are some of the things that make it harder to get so much more out of the retro when a team is fully remote?
Yes. So I think it's the distance. Like you're not seeing body language. You're not seeing very good if someone is distracted or if he's paying attention and stuff like that. And even as a Scrum Master, I don't feel like policing that the whole time. That doesn't feel well. Of course, this is then the topic you could address in the retrospective immediately. Like, I feel like you're not paying attention at the moment. And I think this should be brought up, of course. But if you're co-located present, it is definitely harder to just pull your phone and, I don't know, check Instagram or something. Because if you're sitting in the room with like 8 people, everybody would look at you. You just don't do that socially. And at home, I don't know why, but I'm not free of that myself, of course. It's just different.
Yeah, that there's a different level of focus and presence, yes. Right? So one of the things that definitely we can run some experiments on, as we were talking about it yesterday already, one of the things we should run those experiments on is exactly on that feeling of presence. Yeah. Right. And we could do something different and then, of course, ask people, how present did you feel the others were? Because it's not about you. It's always about the others, because we need the others to be present, because we need to be heard and we need to interact and of course, get to some ideas, some things to experiment. And maybe that's something we could come up with some ideas. With your experience with remote retrospectives, of course, now this post-corona world, we're always working remote, if not all the time, at least part of the time. What have you, in your experience, what have you experienced that actually works to bring that presence to the team in a remote setting?
Yeah. So I love MURAL to use in the retrospective because first of all, you are kind of free in your doing and you can have a lot of fun in MURAL retrospectives just because of, dynamics. How they pan out. Just a short story I can tell about that. We once used a template for a MURAL retro, which is like the sailboat retrospective. And there is like in MURAL, you have like little pictures and stuff like that. And it's pretty vivid. And there is this boat in the middle. And someone from the team just started taking pictures from the people from Slack and putting them in the boat. So that kind of, even when we were in remote, it was first of all, it was just funny. But it painted the picture of we're in the same boat, during the retro. That was quite nice. And then people started to go crazy on decorating themselves with like stickies on MURAL and stuff like that. So it was very fun. So for me, it comes down to still fostering a feeling of being together. It's not like just what I have seen retros become like just a ranting session, where like what was good, yeah, everything that wasn't bad, and then on bad they just kind of spill, and nothing really gets acted upon. And I think it's especially worthwhile to keep people attentive during the remote retrospectives. With like we called that. So since we're German, I just have the German word for it, but was like lightning question, something like that, where you just out of the blue ask someone who you feel like isn't paying attention. So someone sees a colleague looking down, probably on their phone, and it was like lightning question. How do you feel about this? So what? And this like it kind of leading by fear, but it was team induced. So it was not my idea. And wasn't the team lead's idea. So it just,
well, as long as they're having fun, then it's not that big of a deal, right?
Someone from the team came up with that.
And it's actually a possible, not necessarily good in all settings, obviously, but a possible way to keep people accountable to the team, right? Like if the team is doing it, like you said, right? And at the end of the day, retrospectives are much more productive and insightful when we're all attentive. Right. And if some are not, then of course, then that makes the retrospective in itself already less productive, less impactful.
Absolutely. Yes.
So that was the retro, of course, but we do the retros because in the end of the day, we want to be successful, helping others succeed, as that is the role we have as Scrum Masters. So Thorben, share with us, when it comes to success as a Scrum Master, what do you include in it? What is that definition of success for you?
Yeah. This is a good question. And from it's my own definition, because I think there isn't the one definition. It is threefold. So basically you focus on the team, on the collaboration, and the organization. And what I mean by that is focusing on the Scrum team is especially important at the beginning of the Scrum journey, basically. And there, the goal should be to make the team self-sufficient. So I think it pays off to really invest heavily into educating and coaching the team towards self-management and shared responsibility. And if everything works out, it gives the Scrum Master the capacity to either coach another team or focus on the organization later on. And one thing I see neglected way too often, and I have neglected myself way too long in the past, is the sprint goal for that. So back in the day, I always like sprint goal, don't care, just let's get things started. But a few years later now, I think the sprint goal is the most powerful tool for focus of a Scrum team. And if you can say yes or no to a sprint goal, it's quite good. So can you measure it very well? And this already gives the team a sense of urgency, dependency, and kind of belonging, I think. And when the team can constantly create, evaluate, and reflect on a sprint goal on their own, you've come a long way as a Scrum Master on a team scale.
Absolutely. And that's one aspect that I very often come to. Some people in the community have started to pick it up as well. The impact that the sprint goal can have on focus is incredibly important. And I think it was Monday where we were talking about that. No, actually, it was Tuesday when you talked about the team that you had to break up because it was too large. And when we think about that, like that aspect of bringing the sprint goal can really create a positive dynamic, because it's not about how we work, it's about what we are trying to achieve, right? And that direction of focus kind of makes us free to change how we work. And I think that's very important.
Yes. And so basically another thing for me that is very important as a Scrum Master is then the collaboration, or like the department, one could say, and make sure that the teams cooperate with each other. Because I have witnessed that in my company way too often, is that teams, when we had these product areas, which I told on Monday, where teams are working on the most important thing in their area, but it may not be the most important thing of the company. So this is why collaboration is very important, because then if there is something coming up which is very important and it hits hard, like it's really critical, something has to be done immediately, then the teams tend to say like, well, this is not my area, this is not my job. And this mindset of this is not my job, you first want to break that up in the team itself so that the team doesn't think in roles. And after that, you try to break that up throughout the department, having multiple teams working with each other instead of in their own little silos.
Yeah, absolutely. Collaboration is, at least in my perspective, one of the areas that we should really focus on, because software isn't developed in isolation, at least not large-scale software, right? And collaboration needs to become a normal way in which teams work and how they build the product that they are supposed to be building.
Absolutely, absolutely. And for the organizational part, just like the last pillar of my definition of Scrum Master success, is what I told you yesterday, basically, about the sprint review bazaar. Everything that spreads above a couple teams, which impacts the whole department or even the whole organization, and like spread adoption throughout multiple teams. This is like the last pillar for me. If you manage to have experiments that grow beyond your direct scale.
Absolutely. I would like to emphasize the story from the sprint review bazaar as kind of the end result of all of those experiments. So check out yesterday's episode. I think it's a great and very vivid story of how experimentation and the experimentation mindset can truly transform how an organization works. But coming back to this organization aspect in terms of your success definition, of course, getting feedback and having the teams kind of experimenting and working well together and learning to work better together, of course, that's an aspect. But what other aspects in the organizational perspective do you take into account when you do your weekly review, let's say?
So organizational perspective for me is everything that enables the whole department to become better at delivering a product. One other example I can give you for that, something I wasn't involved with myself, but kind of spanned the whole organization, was same story. It's the product, the change into different areas. People were just lobbing out code in their areas, and then it was merged to trunk, and then it wasn't their job anymore because they delivered the increment, basically. What started to happen is that incidents piled up more and more. And then someone from another team came up with this idea of, it was basically, we build it, we run it. It is kind of known as you build it, you run it, but we wanted to keep the team aspect, so we changed it to we build it, we run it. What that meant was when you merge something from your team and there is a bug, an incident, or anything like that, you have to fix it. Not somebody else, not some undone team department. The team who created it fixes it. And there was this experiment done where we have like code set up, which automatically creates some incidents from our cloud environment and distributes that directly to the team's area where it stems from, so that they actually feel the pain of, I don't want to point fingers, but they feel the pain of bad quality themselves, not some other department feels it. This is another example for like Scrum Masters organizational change, for example.
Yeah, and that's actually a very important point, that as Scrum Masters, our, of course, focus is on the team, and that's where you started with this definition of success. But we have to acknowledge and accept that our work cannot end within the context of the team. We talked about collaboration and now organization, right? Because as you said, like the team isn't done when the code is merged. The team is only done when everything is working fine for the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why the review bazaar is such a good concept to have, because the teams now too feel if the customers value their product increment or not, if they value the feature or not. Because before they just merged and then it was delivered and that was the end of the story. Maybe there were some bugs created or someone from sales got got feedback that this feature we developed wasn't even helpful in the first place or something. But now with the stakeholders in the review bazaar, the teams get the feedback.
Absolutely, and therefore also the motivation to continue to change.
Yes.
That was a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us, Thorben.
More than welcome.
Part of a successful Scrum Master job is to help the product owner. Tomorrow we explore that critical role in Scrum, the product owner role. Tune in to learn about product owner anti-patterns, what you can do to help the product owner, and a real-life example of what a great product owner is and what made it so. Tomorrow on our Friday Product Owner episode. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.